Save the Semantics, episode 223. It is August 23, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. I found some time. During the middle of the week to record. So I decided to do that. Instead of what I would usually do, which is go on a run. And I decided to go on a walk and come out here and record instead, which is, kind of my preference. I like having open spaces. I like having space to myself, just out and about. I'm out here, I'm just recording shit. It was hot as fuck today. I just did not I did not feel like running. I probably could have, I could have motivated myself. I could have pushed myself to go for a run, but I just felt like it just would have been kind of uncomfortable. It would have been a little uncomfy because of how hot it is today. So I decided to go for a walk instead. It would be preferable. It would be great. I think it would be great if I could just get jacked from walking. You know what I mean? Like, fuck going to the gym and all that. Screw maintaining weights and continuing to up your how much you can bench or deadlift or all of that. Just fuck that. Just take me on a walk. Let me see if I can get in real good shape for that. Which I'm sure you can. I know people. I think isn't it statistically, or hasn't it been like scientifically proven that walking on a consistent and daily basis is very healthy for you? I would do that, you know what I mean? But part of me also wants to be I want to be a little stronger too, so that's kind of why. I mean, I've already talked about my motivations for going to the gym and whatnot, but if if I didn't have to be, if I didn't feel the inkling to get in like good strong shape, if I didn't want to just gain on some muscle and I just wanted to focus on doing whatever in the healthiest way possible, then I would just be walking all the time, which is kind of technically what I've been doing for the last couple of years. I mean, I've been running consistently and walking a little bit too, but if I could, I'd just walk just places every day, just obviously there are limitations in terms of where and how far I can walk, but I would do that. And I'm not talking hikes necessarily. I enjoy hikes. I enjoy traversing long form of walking, but just a walk around, maybe a couple miles or a few miles around the block. That's why I like going to places where there's walkability, cities or places where there's areas where you can walk around and shit, you know what I mean? I'm fortunate that I live in an area where there's a park that's really close by. That's where I'm recording right now, that I can come to again, walk or run, just, a space to exercise and shit. I'm very fortunate that I have that. I think that it would be really, my sort of ideal kind of position would be to be able to sort of walk anywhere. No need for a car, the quote unquote walkable cities. We don't have a whole lot of those. But that'd be pretty tight. That'd be kind of an ideal situation. I guess I gotta move to like Europe for that kind of thing. But anyways, I've been not a whole lot to really talk about. I just wanted to do a quick check-in. I found the time to record. Found the time to go for a little stroll. So I also decided to record something for the midweek, which means might be a bit of a shorter stint this time around, but that's okay. It's been, I would say not a ton has really been happening in just my general peripheral or kind of, things that I necessarily care about. I've been busy. Work's been picking up for me. I've been pretty busy with that, so haven't had a whole lot of time to do much else outside of it. But I've made some progress on Ghost Trick. I'm sort of kind of anticipating moving on to depending on how much time I can kind of allot outside of work to move on to Nier and some other shit. Maybe another game that I can kind of have as a sort of a supplemental thing that I can play just for fun, not too much of a investment, you know what I mean? I've been playing a bit of Risk of Rain, just doing one-off runs here and there. I think it's a fun thing that I can kind of jump in and out of. It's sort of a similar vibe to Slay the Spire, which I have recently started playing again, which is great. I just do, a run a day, those kind of daily challenges, which is great. Super nice for just a one-off, 30-minute to an hour session, which is perfect for me. So yeah, those kinds of games will be sort of nice to supplement, in between if I'm just not feeling up to engaging with a much more in-depth story focused game, you know what I mean? So I have those available, but if I stumble across something else, then yeah, maybe I'll pick that up. But for now, that's sort of what I'm working with. There's been, I think that it definitely feels, and maybe it's just sort of my own perception, but it's starting to feel that a lot of the games that are coming out in the fall, those release dates are really starting to come near, and you have this sort of feeling of ramping up towards the holiday season for the gaming industry. There's a lot of conventions and a lot of sort of shows that are happening right now. Gamescom happened like yesterday, I guess, which I had no idea that was happening. I have just found out like last minute. I tuned in very slightly. They were in the middle of a COD presentation, and I just did not like. COD is fun. COD is fun to play with friends when other people have the game, but I don't really care that much about Call of Duty. So, yeah, I did not. I was just kind of checked out from that, and I didn't really bother to check out the rest of the presentation. There's a lot of AAA game releases that were discussed during that whole section, I guess, but none of them really garnered or really appealed to me. So yeah, there's a lot of games coming out. Starfield is a big one. It seems really cool. I don't know if I'll ever play it. Here's the thing. There are so many of these games. I'm never gonna play most of these. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never gonna touch the majority of the games that are released. Obviously, it's impossible. If I had the time, of course, but even if I was someone who is maybe like a gaming journalist or whatever, which might seem like a dream job to some people, I feel I would get burnt out super quickly, considering just the turnover of games, the amount of games that you have to go through. It's there. I'm sure just hearing from other reviewers online speak about these kinds of things, that I'm sure that you just you're not, it feels like, sure, you're able to enjoy some really great games once in a while, but you're not able to really take in everything, you know what I mean? I don't know how much of it you can really play at your own pace. If you're putting out a review of a game, then you got to complete the game by a certain timeline, right? So you got to squeeze in all of the gaming before like that review embargo lifts for larger releases. Like, say Zelda, like Tears of the Kingdom, it's like 100+ hour game right there. I don't know how much time these reviewers are necessarily given after they receive the game code or receive a copy of the game. But it's not a. I'm guessing it's not a whole lot of time, so they gotta just like cram that shit in, and then they maybe they really love the game. They were able to experience a lot of it, but they also had to kind of balance that out with providing critiques and just noting down lots of things, which can seem fun, or which can seem kind of interesting. I enjoyed doing that. I talked about when I finished when I was playing through Persona, and when I finished the game, I noted down a lot of my my thoughts and feelings playing through the game, and kind of treated the last one, one of the previous episodes as just kind of a review of the game, because I don't know, I just wanted to do that because it seemed like a fun thing. But if you're doing that for a job, like you're giving up something, you're giving up some level of enjoyment because it is your job. You do need to provide some level of expertise in a sense. You need to be able to provide if you're a professional, you got to provide a well-written review of the product that you are consuming, so other consumers have expectations of and have an idea of what to expect going into a specific game. So there's also with every job there's some level of pressure that comes from other sources, like your boss or your manager or whatever. You got obligations to fulfill. So I think when it comes to gaming journalism and that sort of thing, there is a lot of interesting aspects to it. I don't know if I would ever want to do something like that, where I treat one of my hobbies as a job. I feel that I'm in a good enough place where I can kind of balance out, or at least I feel that my hobbies are, for the most part, kind of fulfilling, and I feel that that's something that I can really differentiate from my job. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I would ever want to, I guess, mix the two. If I ever was like, I mean, it's difficult now because like the job that I'm in is like completely different from what, like, I used to want to be a journalist. I think I've talked about that. I used to want to be an author and a writer. Who knows, that might be something in the works. But if I were to become, again, if I really wanted to somehow become a gaming journalist, I feel that it is much easier said than done. Your expectations of the job are very different. And yeah, I don't know, it just feels, just on kind of a very surface level observation, it feels that you're kind of taking away some aspect of your life, where you might have really enjoyed gaming. You might still love it for sure, but you just no longer have that type of connection anymore, where you can treat it as sort of an getaway because of how much of it consumes your life, because it's virtually all encompassing, right? If you work as, if you work in the gaming industry, to whatever degree that might be, and your hobbies are also video games, and this just kind of that's your entire kind of sphere right there. And if that works for you, that's great, but I just can't imagine. I love video games. This really kind of primarily what I've been talking about recently, because I have a lot to say. There's a lot of great games that I want to play, that are coming up, and if I have the time to do so, I do want to play those games and talk about them. But if that were the only thing, if that was the only kind of element in my life, I don't know if I could. I don't think that would ever really work out. I need to diversify and do other shit outside of gaming. You know what I mean? Even like I've talked about this too, or maybe I don't know. Maybe I've touched upon it in the past, but even when it is sort of my mindset of, ooh, I'm gonna play, this weekend I'm just gonna be gaming all week. Even when I was playing Tears of the Kingdom, I never, of course, during the first couple of weeks, I really was playing it every day because it was so much fun. But at a certain point, like I couldn't, I couldn't really justify myself playing 8 hours a day. I wanted to do other shit, man. I wanted to go outside. I wanted to, hang out and stuff. So I think that it would be very difficult. It would be very difficult for me to have video games as just the center all of my life. Even if it's like, even if that's like a fun kind of thing to do. Nah, I got other shit too. I want to do other things as well. So, that's kind of I was just kind of thinking about that when, just sort of, looking at all these upcoming releases and thinking about how much time I could potentially dedicate to playing video games, and then, thinking about, just the world of gaming, the gaming industry, and reviewers and that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's just something that kind of came to mind recently. But yeah, a lot of stuff is coming out. A lot of it I will again never play. There's some stuff that's coming up pretty recently. I feel like in September. Isn't Super Mario Wonder, or is that in October? I forgot. I know that Super Mario RPG, the remake, is coming out during that time. I do want to play that game. I don't know if I'll get to that anytime soon, but I've heard really great things about it. It seems very fun, super colorful. Just the music. Isn't like Yoko Shimomura? Didn't she do the soundtrack too? Which is pretty fantastic. So yeah, I think I do gotta check that out sometime in the future. Amongst all the other games that I want to play through, there's also Baten Kaitos that's gonna come out. Oh, what happened to the Suikoden remakes? Like, I remember that was a thing. I feel like we haven't heard a thing about those. I thought they were like coming out this year, but that just never. I guess that never happened. I don't know what happened with Konami's. I don't know if they've made any other announcements since that. Since they've announced that they were making the remakes. I guess that's been delayed. I don't know. We just haven't heard shit from it. There's also the other game, right? The Eiyuden Chronicles, right? I think it was sort of the spiritual successor by the original developers of Suikoden. There's a lot of good shit out. There's a lot of good stuff coming out. I still haven't played games like Live Alive. Fucking what else? There's so much shit in my backlog. Let's take a look at the backlog since it's been a bit. I think this will be like a fun thing to do. Just check in on the gaming backlog. It's probably not going to change a whole lot every time I check in because I go through my games very, steadily, but slow. So let's take a look what I have. So games that I want to play. I have Astral Chain. I have Ys 9, and I know Ys 10 is being released in Japan pretty soon. The English version, I'm assuming, is probably going to be released maybe a year or so after, or a couple years after. So that's far off in the future. Hades, I do want to play Hades too, but I just I've bought so many games recently, or I've bought a good amount of games recently, where it's like, okay, I gotta kind of slow down a little bit because I bought Nier, I bought Ghost Trick, I bought Risk of Rain. It's a bit, it's a bit of games. So I feel that should kind of fulfill my sort of gaming appetite for the time being. But I do want to play Hades sometime in the future because I know it's a roguelike that's kind of right up my alley. I still need to beat Transistor. See, there's just so much shit, you know what I mean? But Hades is on the list. I've heard great things about Amori. I have a slew of Final Fantasy games that I want to play that are on the Switch, right? I'm really happy that I beat Final Fantasy VII earlier this year. I talked about that. But there's still 8 and 10 and 12 that I want to check out. Persona, I'm probably going to take a bit of a break from Persona, like I mentioned. Persona 5 was fantastic. 4 is probably the next game on the list. Maybe I'll play that next year. I just think the sort of the gaming format, or rather I guess the cycle, you know what I mean, the calendar cycle of the game kind of wore me down a lot. And again, I talked about this in my review. So if I'm assuming correct that the other two games, Persona 3 and 4, kind of follow that same format, then I don't know if I would necessarily enjoy diving into those games for right now. So I'm going to hold off getting into those until I maybe just take a bit of a break from Persona, you know what I mean? But those are on the list as well. 13 Sentinels. That's a big one for me because I've heard really good things about it. Story-wise, I've heard it's fantastic. I know it's like a visual novel mixed with kind of a strategy game. Seems really interesting. Again, seems right up my alley. That's probably going to be kind of the next big thing that I want to play after Nier. So yeah, that's a big one on the list. Disco Elysium, I've heard really great things about. Story-based game. I don't know how long it is. If it's like a shorter game, then maybe it's something that I want to put on my list to play later this year, or in the future, near future. So yeah, maybe that's something that I want to take a look at, because I've heard that the story in Disco Elysium is really well written as well. So that really intrigues me. So that's kind of why it's on the list. Tunic, I've heard good things about. I've heard it's pretty challenging, right? Top down, Zelda, old school Zelda Zelda influenced action adventure game. So that one's not as high on my list of games that I want to play, but I am interested in it. So if I ever run out of shit, it's gonna be there. Or if I'm really just in the mood for, a Zelda-esque game, then maybe that's something that I want to check out. Again, Suikoden, that's something on the list whenever the hell that releases. Inscription I added on here because I think it was earlier this year where I was really enjoying, or I've been enjoying Slay the Spire. I have 300 hours in Slay, which is fucking crazy. So I wanted to try to find another card-based game that really fit that roguelite. Nothing is really, I don't think, it's hard for me to find anything that's quite like Slay the Spire, but this game seemed similar to it. This one's a maybe. This could be a potential game that I try out in the future. The gameplay looks interesting. I've seen some streamers play it in the past, so maybe I'll pick it up if I'm in the mood. I just added it on the list a little while back to see if it was something that I just kind of wanted to play, sort of to supplement or provide the same kind of feeling that I had or I have when I play through Slay the Spire. So that's that. Chained Echoes, another JRPG. Man, this is another one that it's damn, dude. I'm really interested in it. I heard great things about it when it was released. I think it was released pretty late last year. So I do want to play it. I just don't know where in my hierarchy of where I would want to place it in terms of how much I want to play it. So it's a little questionable. I don't know. Maybe. So this one's a kind of a maybe, but I just wanted to put it on here as well. Along the same note, Sea of Stars, that's coming out pretty soon. I don't want to say similar type of game because it's pretty different in terms of in terms of the style, I guess. But I mean, you could make the argument that they're both homages to old school JRPGs, right? Sea of Stars very much being closely resembling Chrono Trigger. You got Mitsuda on the track, or he's got like one guest track, right? So I am interested in this one for sure. Again, I think I feel kind of a similar way this to Chained Echoes, where I don't know how much, you know, maybe I'll check out the demo because I know they released the demo a little while a little while back, and I haven't, maybe I'll do that. But I think the thing with demos too is I like, I don't know, I found that I haven't played a ton of demos where I wasn't already thinking of buying the game. So it's just like, why not just buy the game? You know what I mean? I feel like it's maybe just, like it's cool that they provide a demo. I think that's great for sure. But this one, if I might just purchase directly, in the future. So we'll see. But this is definitely on the list. Maybe it's a little higher than Chained Echoes just because I've heard really good things about the developer, and if it's the clear kind of connection and homage to Chrono Trigger is definitely a plus for me. The Witcher 3. I just kind of have this one on here because I've wanted to play The Witcher for the longest time. Back when, I don't know, fucking who knows, for forever, since its inception, because I've heard it's, one of the best, like, kind of, I guess you could say, like, Western RPGs in general. I've heard nothing but good things about it. But it's a massive game. It's a huge fucking game. So I don't know. It's just like, I don't like, will I ever play this game? I don't know, but it's on the list because it's sort of like one of those wish fulfillment things that you just kind of think about. You just have it on here just because it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it eventually, maybe, who knows? But then there's just like other games that come in that you find more interesting. So, yeah, it's tricky, but I do have The Witcher on here. I want to play it sometime. I just don't have the motivation right now to play it, I guess. What else is on here? Yeah, I've bought Kaidos. Metroid Dread, I've heard really good things about. And might as well, let's add Metroid Prime Remastered on here as well. Just because I've wanted to play Metroid Prime way back since I owned like a GameCube or a Wii. Yeah. Metroid Dread first. Last year, what did it come out last year? No, I think it came out in 2021. Another game I've only heard good things about. It seems really challenging. I did play the demo for that one, like very briefly. 2D side-scroll action games, it's really hard for me to get into those kinds of games. Really the exception to that are Hollow Knight and Celeste. I don't know why those games specifically resonated with me, but it seemed to resonate with a lot of other people as well. But just, I don't know, those games just had such a tight gameplay loop that it was just really addictive, and it was just really like something that I wanted to play. I've heard Metroid Dread is also kind of on the shorter side, but it's also fucking expensive. It's full price, right? Full price for whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's price is just, I don't know. There's a lot of ways you can justify buying something. So I don't like, but for a shorter game, I think it's like 8 hours or something, or maybe 10 hours from what I've heard. It could be shorter than that. I don't know. I don't know. If it could be a great game. It could be a great, you know, 8 hour or 10 hour, playthrough. But I just don't. I don't know. It's kind of just on there just because I've heard great things about it. I don't know how much it really appeals to me specifically, but I haven't really played a whole lot of Metroid. The only Metroid game that I've ever played was Metroid Other M for the Wii, which is considered to be one of the weaker Metroid games. I enjoyed that. I never beat it. I think I still have it somewhere. But yeah, it's just I just haven't properly given Metroid the the attention that it maybe deserves. Same thing with Metroid Prime. I've also heard nothing but great things about the remaster, which was shadow dropped back in February, right? So that's also kind of on the list. That might be a little more worthwhile for me, just because I guess I don't know, action shooter game just is it's not something that I play a whole lot, so just a little, I guess, change or deviation in gaming, just like gaming genre would be kind of fun to delve into. So that might be something I pick up. I don't know. But again, these are all just hypothetical games on the list. Some of which I will actually play, but I just don't know when. And then the last item I have on here. Well, I have other games on here, but I don't really see myself picking them up. I just kind of have some. I have what is it? I have Great Ace Attorney, maybe not as super high. Not as super high on the list. I have Rogue Legacy 2. Again, another roguelike game. I don't know how many of these I can really get before it all kind of starts to like meld together into this sort of rogue-like melting pot, you know what I mean? And then I have Darksiders, which I've heard some good things about. That one's kind of a maybe. Last one on this list, just sort of bookend it. Not really. This isn't really in any order. These are just, I just kind of put these on just based on when I don't know, when I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, maybe this is something I want to play. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I've heard really great things about this one. I've heard that the story is fantastic. I heard that the just the writing in general is very well done. So this is one of those games where if I'm in the mood for a very heavy story, very story heavy focused game, then this is something that I might want to kind of pick up, you know what I mean? I also heard that it's not super long, so that's right up my alley. If I want to, if I'm in the process of, if I just played like a JRPG and then I want to play like a shorter game or something like that, this could be something that I play as an in between. So I have it on here just because I've heard great things about it. Well, yeah, that's the current list. I do want to revisit it once in a while just because I think it's kind of fun. Fun to see maybe if I've added new games. It's just going to be continually growing. That's just what it is. It's going to be continually growing. Did I add Sea of Stars on here? Let me see. Yeah, I did. Okay. So, yeah, it's just going to continue to grow. There's a lot of games that I want to play. When I'll get to them, who knows? But that's a fun part, There's going to be a never ending list of things that I will be able to check out in the future. That's kind of what makes it fun. Fun to keep up with things. So, yeah, that's. I know it's just kind of a whatever, just me blabbing on about games. That's just sort of the mood I'm in right now, gaming wise. I just want to talk about games. I think it's fun to discuss one of my favorite mediums. So yeah, quick weekend update or during the week update. I mean, it's been half an hour, so it might as well just be like a full on podcast episode. But yeah, I will check back in later this weekend. All right, it is now Friday, August 25th, 2023. Yeah, recording this on a Friday, baby. I found a little pocket of time that I was able to do so. And yeah, here I am. It's a little late. It's late at night. But I've had a long week. It's been a long week, man. It's been fine for the most part. Had a few hiccups here and there, but for the most part, it's been good. But yeah, I've had a long week, so I just wanted to wanted to chill, kind of wanted to relax, and just kind of take some steam off. I was initially thinking of recording on maybe Sunday this weekend or something, but I found I don't know. I felt this felt right to me. So yeah, here I am. I have been. So my sleep has been weird. What a surprise. My sleep has been kind of weird. Like today, I honestly thought that I was going to feel shittier today than I did, which is kind of surprising because I felt like I slept terribly. Like I went to bed, or I fell asleep around like 1 o'clock or some shit. So I felt like shit. Like just kind of going into sleep, I felt like shit. But I felt okay. I actually felt okay this morning, and that I was able to get through the day. I was just moderately tired, but I was not exhausted like I sometimes am. So yeah, that was kind of that. It helped that I didn't wake up like a minute before I had to go to work, which is something that has happened in the past, which sucks. That fucking sucks. That's an awful headspace to be in and an awful position to be in. So yeah, I'm happy that today turned out to be a lot better than I anticipated. Yeah, so things have been good, man. I've just been outside of work is just kind of chilling, relaxing, catching up on Ghost Trick. I think I have like a few more chapters remaining in the main story. Well, I mean, that's really it's only the story for this game, so I don't know if I can really call there's not really exactly any like side quests or anything like that. It's a very linear game. But yeah, I think I have a few more missions remaining. I like where I'm currently at in the game. They added this kind of new mechanic, which is sort of interesting, where you sort of control two kind of characters at the same time, which is pretty interesting. So that adds for a bit more difficulty, I think, maybe a bit more of a challenge. So I'm excited to see how they maybe expand on that, towards kind of the end of the game, because it definitely feels like it's sort of reaching this kind of climax, this sort of resolution. You can just kind of like, there's a lot of reveals that have happened in the story, a lot of interesting kind of plot details that have occurred, and it's sort of kind of unexpected twists and turns and whatnot. Some if you're familiar with Phoenix Wright, you'll be kind of you'll be happy to see that flavor, I guess, that flavor of like the text and just like the kind of the ridiculous scenarios that a lot of Phoenix Wright games have. That is very much present in this game as well. So if you like that, if you enjoy that type of like humor and just sort of the style of the game, I think this is like right up your alley for sure. And I highly recommend it. Again, I think this is really my, I guess you could say Phoenix Wright was sort of my first venture into kind of a point and click game in a sense. But that game is really not, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's really its own kind of thing. You know what I mean? There is an element of that sort of, I guess click and point adventure when you're out in the field and investigating things. But the whole courtroom section of the game is much more like you're just kind of sifting through the dialogue and trying to figure out the best way to pressing on the right kind of things and questioning the right things and presenting the right evidence and whatnot. So
is much more decision heavy focused in terms of gameplay, as opposed to exploring or discovering things in the field. So it's a bit different in that sense. And yeah, so it really is. It's kind of its own genre of game. I don't know what to even really call it. It's just kind of Ace Attorney. Ace Attorney is its own thing. Um, I I remember like playing. I'm thinking back on like clicking, point and click adventures. I don't know if I've played a whole ton of those style of games. I know there's like things like King's Quest and Monkey Island and whatnot. Um, what I do remember is way back. I think this was back in elementary. There was this game called I Spy, and it was based on this Scholastic book series that was a thing way back then, where essentially it's sort of like a Where's Waldo kind of thing, where you're just trying to find certain items in pictures and photos and whatnot. Um, and that sort of game was it was kind of created. It's sort of like a mystery kind of adventure where you're like on an island or something and you're like trying to like figure out certain puzzles and you're like clicking, you're trying to just clicking to see like what items you can interact with and stuff. And that was pretty fun. I remember I never beat it because it was always it was on the school computer, so I just played it whenever I had the time to do it. Um, and I just it was just like a fun thing. Like I remember like playing that with friends and like trying to figure out like trying to move past and trying to progress through the game. Um, but yeah, I remember just getting stuck in like one section because I couldn't find a thing. I couldn't find an item. So that kind of like threw me for a loop. But yeah, it was that was kind of fun. I think that there's also the ones that are much more oriented towards kids where it's like Freddy Fish, Pajama Sam, those ones. I remember seeing those games or like hearing about those games. I don't know if I maybe have played Freddy Fish a long time ago. I think we had like a CD of that, and I played that a long time ago. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot of memory in terms of like those other kind of kids sort of I guess web games or computer games that involve you I don't know, just sort of interacting with the environment and trying to solve puzzles and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I think that style of game is sort of I guess, within kind of that realm of, Ace Attorney, and I guess, this Ghost Trick game. I think, even though it's, it's different. It's definitely different, stylistically for sure. But yeah, that's sort of what I was kind of thinking, when playing this game and thinking of other styles of game or other types of games that kind of fit with this sort of genre. Um, and yeah, it's hard for me to think of that because it just feels very unique, in its sort of presentation. So yeah, I'm sort of nearing the end of the game. That's what it kind of feels like. So I'll most likely beat it if I have the time. If I have the time, I'll most likely beat it by like next week, and then we can move on to Nier. I'm very excited for Nier, man, or Nier Automata specifically. I don't know if they'll do like a replicant, if they'll port replicant to the Switch, at least like the remastered version of it to the Switch. With the news that essentially the Switch 2, that kind of rumors that have been popping up about it, saying that it might get released, sometime next year. I don't know if that's something that would be in the works, but I have heard good things about that game as well. Here's like the one kind of conflicting thing that I have heard about the Nier series. Like I've heard people say that it's recommended to start with Replicant first before going into Automata. But it's also kind of like, because they're I guess they're like connected in some way, shape, or form. like you'll maybe appreciate some things more in Automata if you started with Replicant. But I think that the I guess the overall uh, I guess the overall opinion from what I've heard in general of Automata is that it's a great game. So even as like a standalone, it's like a great game. And if I wanted to delve deeper into kind of the lore and the connections between, maybe the storylines, then maybe I can delve into Replicant. But I'm just, I'm looking forward to jumping into Automata without any knowledge of really anything. I have a general idea of what the story kind of, actually I have no idea what the story is. I just know that you play as like robot people, or like you play as these kind of like I guess replicants, or you play as these sort of clone people. That's all I know. And then there's like these robots that are kind of live on a planet and shit. So that's all I'm really familiar with. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. Again, have heard nothing but good things about it. This is really just me like hyping myself up, honestly, because I've been very much looking forward to it. It's been it's been a while since like I've first heard of the game and have been interested in it. I think just as more time has gone on, I've just been more. I don't know. I've really been anticipating picking it up, and I was very happy to hear that. I was very happy when they announced that the port was going to be released, and I mean, it just helps for me, you know what I mean? It's I'm like thinking, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of good stuff that's out there right now. Like Baldur's Gate 3 is just huge, just like, whatever, Metacritic, whatever you want to call it, but just a whole ton of praise being given to that game, which seems to be, just seems to be killing it. It seems to be a lot of fun. It's just like one of those things. I don't have a PC. Like I don't have like a PC game, or like a PC or computer that's able to run that kind of game. I just don't. You know what I mean? Final Fantasy 16. I don't know if when or if I'll get, if I'll play that game. You know what I mean? It's just that it's just hard, man. It's just like time, and then I've talked about this before, but I just cannot justify getting another console at this point in time. I just can't. Like it just doesn't really make sense. I just don't know how. Like I don't know how much time I can dedicate to that console. So like right now, just the Switch in terms of just the compatibility and ability to just. I mean, it has so many games in general. You know what I mean? So it was just fantastic. Like I have such a library of games to choose from, and I talked about this, earlier this week about just the, my current like gaming list, game list of games that I want to play. These are all playable on the Switch, which is fantastic, and it's awesome that these are accessible and available. But things with like, if I get like a PS5, it's like I don't know what I guess there's Elden Ring. I don't know if how interested I am in Elden Ring specifically, because I'm not a huge Souls gamer. And I don't know, Final Fantasy 16 for sure I would probably pick up. But other than that, it's really hard for me to think of games that I'm like, yeah, I really want to play this. Like I really, I'm really just kind of like motivated to pick this one up and then try it out. God of War seems fantastic, but I just don't know. It's just not something that I'm super interested in. I can't justify buying I don't know how much PS5s cost right now, like a $500 system just to play, these great games for sure. But again, it's just hard for me to justify. But again, these are all things that I can worry about in the future because I have so many other games to go through. So maybe in the future, I'll pick these up because I do want to try 16. I'm not, it's not the end of the world if I'm not able to play it, but it would be cool to play through it because I've heard great things about it in terms of like the story and whatnot. So, yeah, it's just sort of I just have my plate full, I guess. I'm happy with kind of my Switch system, and I mean it's held up somehow. Like I've had to change my Joy Cons, I don't know, maybe like once a year because of just how crappy they are, and I have complaints about the hardware and just how finicky it can be for sure. But it's been good, man. I've had some really great experiences playing with the Switch. Honestly, it's become one of my favorite consoles. I'm like thinking back of on prior consoles that I played on. I played a lot of handhelds, so I played a lot on my DS and my 3DS. So those are definitely up there for me. But just the fact that you can go from switch from the TV to the kind of the I guess portable gaming, handheld gaming is fantastic. Honestly, it's such a great concept. And I know a lot of other companies are trying to do that. I know Sony has their kind of handheld thing that they recently released or I guess announced. But it's just, I don't know, it's just different. And I've just been happy with what I've kind of had with the console and just all the games, and of course Xenoblade. I had to sneak that one in. Yeah, it's worked out, so I'm very happy with it. Of course there is like, I think when I'm talking about these other big releases that that aren't on the Switch, part of me definitely feels that kind of FOMO. Because right now, there's just this conversation about Baldur's Gate just throughout, like, the gaming community in terms of just, just how impressive that game is and how expansive it is and whatnot. So, I definitely feel a little bit of that FOMO. For sure. For sure. Like, I want to be on the end sometimes. But, I mean, that's just been the case for the majority of my life in terms of gaming experiences, I guess. Like the only time really I can think of where I was really in was like Zelda, like where I was in on kind of the thing, just while this kind of huge gaming event was happening was recently was Tears of the Kingdom. And that's kind of really it that I can think of. Like again, obviously like Xenoblade 3, but that's just such a it's still such a niche kind of game. Like it's so, concentrated within, it's such a concentrated community that it's really, it's different. It's different instead of kind of this widespread sort of phenomenon that like, games like Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate, Elden Ring, these ones that have really just, part of the, I guess, cultural zeitgeist, if you want to call it that. But the majority of the time, I'm really not in it. Like, I'm not playing every game at release. I've never been like that. Because once again, I don't have any other console. I just have a Switch. So, I'm just kind of out of the loop in terms of those kinds of releases, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's sort of, it'll be, there's going to be a lot to talk about for sure once the Switch 2 or whatever the hell it is that's going to be released, most likely next year, just based on the rumors that have spread. Some pretty, I guess, reputable sources have, noted this. So I'm, it'll be interesting to see like how that goes. It would be like I know there was some, notice about it being, I guess, backwards compatible in a sense. I don't know, Nintendo hasn't confirmed it, obviously, but that would be huge. You know what I mean? If it's backwards compatible, then yeah, it's day one for me. Well, not maybe, I don't know about day one, but I will be purchasing, it if it's day one, and I'm able to, up the resolution or whatever the fuck. Like that'd be huge. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of excitement there. And if there's some good, I mean, this is just far, far off in the future in terms of anticipating what games are going to be considered launch titles. Um, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. You know what I mean? If once um, once it's confirmed that there's going to be a release, that's just going to be the I guess that would be kind of the conversation there. There is, I think one thing to kind of look forward to on the Nintendo front is September. Anticipating a potential direct this September. This could be a big one, because I don't know, because they last direct they talked about, it was a very Mario heavy direct. They were talking about, they brought up Mario Wonder and some of the ports. Briefly mentioned that Princess Peach game. So I don't know what the next one. I'm assuming, just because of prior year stuff, I'm assuming that there's going to be a September direct. And so I'm interested in seeing what they're going to discuss there, because I have no, I'm trying to think of what, because it feels after this sort of, towards kind of the end of the year, I guess Q3, Q4, if you want to call it that, it feels hasn't been a whole lot that's really been announced going into next year specifically, you know what I mean? So it's after this slate of, all these Mario games, Mario titles, I just, it's pretty barren for the most part, right? I haven't really looked at the kind of the release schedule that they sometimes post. Or I guess maybe someone else does an aggregate post of it. I don't know if Nintendo is responsible for that. But yeah, it's just I haven't really heard of anything, that's going to be released anytime soon. So, I'm keeping I guess I'm just sort of seeing what happens. It's also kind of just funny thinking about it too, because again, I just don't have there's all these releases that are happening, and it's I don't have, again, I just don't. It's actually impossible for me to have the time to play all of these games. But I just think it's exciting to hear these games that I might not even play, but excited for other people to be able to play them. I know that Metroid, I think a big one is Metroid Prime 4. They announced that forever ago, back in, I don't know who knows how long ago that was. And I think they delayed that, and so who knows, maybe it's possible that Metroid Prime 4 gets released released next year as sort of a launch title. But yeah, I don't know, that could be something to kind of look forward to. It is pretty crazy to think about how long the Switch's life cycle has been. It's been 7 years, right? So I think the legs that it has, sort of the install base, is definitely pretty impressive for sure. I just I think it would be nice. It would definitely be nice to have it's sort of an upgraded version of the Switch, because I've had my Switch for a while now, which is kind of crazy to think. 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. What it feels like. When did I get this thing? Back in 2019, 2018. Yeah, so it's been a minute, man, since I've had this console, and it's been again, I'm really trying to think about kind of comparing this to the other consoles that I've had, like GameCube and PS2, and then the DS's and whatnot. And this is definitely up there. It's kind of funny. I honestly think I've been gaming more consistently recently than I have been my entire life. Despite the fact that I work full time, and I have other obligations and whatnot. I still have found the time to be able to game, and I've really sort of committed to that, just because I enjoy it, and I think that I've done it more than I really ever have. It also helps. I think a huge thing too that helps is just the fact that, I'm able to, I'm actually able to buy these games for myself. As a kid, you don't like, I don't know, you don't have money. Like, you gotta ask your parents. You hope that, they give you as like a, birthday present or, Christmas gift. But now I can just like buy like whatever the fuck. And that's where that can be, that's where some issues may arise. And I really have to sort of like, I guess, control myself in terms of like spending too much. But I feel like I have a good, I'm not super consumer heavy. I really try to, err on the side of buying games that I really anticipate playing, instead of just like having just like a huge backlog of, a huge library of games. Although that is sort of like an ideal of mine, just to be, just to have all those games on hand and be able to pick them up and stuff. But I like the idea of, picking up a game and then playing it because you wanted to play that game like kind of right now or pretty soon. So, yeah, that's sort of kind of my headspace. But yeah, I don't know. I've had like a pretty good, it's been a good, this year has been really good for gaming, honestly, for my gaming experience. I've talked about it again, but I've played some really fantastic games, this past year. I've played, again, I beat, Final Fantasy VII. I've, of course, Tears of the Kingdom. I beat Persona 5, and, had some of these, like, little games here and there. It's been really good, and I've really just enjoyed it, and I'm excited to kind of see, I think I'm anticipating Nier is going to probably take up a good chunk of my time, but hopefully I can squeeze like one more, like, somewhat larger game in there by the end of this year that I can kind of pick up. I also am thinking of playing, and I've mentioned this before, but I really want to play through, like, I think I want to give myself enough time, like give myself enough of kind of a buffer, to kind of distance myself a little bit, not distance myself, but just sort of, take a break, like take a real break from Xenoblade 3, because I've really been I've been playing that like on and off for, over a year now. Of course, there was my initial playthrough. I was playing that for nonstop, but I want to take, a good break before I pick up again and do New Game Plus and I play through with like the Japanese voices, because I really want to hear what, how they portrayed the characters. I'm excited to kind of see how that goes. So that might be something that I do after Nier, after I play through that. What else? What else am I thinking? Yeah, again, it's been a really rewarding kind of experience with it. I just have felt, I don't know, I've gotten like, it's funny too, not to get super, corny or super, like, I guess, just sappy and shit. I've honestly feel that I've connected a lot more to these kinds of these stories in these games, more than I really have ever, to be completely honest. I don't know. I think, again, maybe this is a conversation I've already had, but this is whatever. I've definitely become a lot more emotionally, like, kind of affected by certain things, like even smaller things, you know what I mean? Like even stories that are pretty familiar, pretty easy, pretty not even that difficult to understand, I guess. Even those kind of simple stories where they talk about, the power of friendship and that sort of thing, those affect me, man. I really feel that. I really feel like where those, I really feel where the the creators are coming from in terms of how they're crafting these stories. And I appreciate it more. Even when it's simple, I don't, I just have sort of, okay, here's the thing. Like last week I was pretty critical of like Oppenheimer and stuff, but I feel like, I don't know. I provide those criticisms, but I understand
I really acknowledge and really respect the artistry that goes behind creating these kinds of things. Um, so I'm not like picky. I don't like pick and choose. I don't really like dive into like, oh, there's like these kind of like plot holes unless it's like super obvious. You know what I mean? I there's just certain limitations with storytelling. I feel like there's not going to be. It's very difficult. Like the standard, the highest standard of storytelling is like things like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, like these TV shows written by these just incredible writers, and how they just like carve out and just like, just how they make that shit work is just like a masterclass, and it's just incredible to see that happen, but it's so rare. You know what I mean? It is just so rare, and I really try my best not to compare those kinds of things to other mediums. One, because they're just they're completely different at times. Like other TV shows, they're not there. Like things like Stranger Things. Like it is just not the same kind of story. There are other things that you can appreciate about these other storylines. Even if they are much less complicated, they deal with less less like I don't know, less things like domestic relationships and fraud and just like and death. I mean, they talk about death's like a pretty consistent thing in Stranger Things, but you know what I mean. Like it's just how they handle these things is a lot more nuanced, and these the more I guess quote unquote mature TV shows. But these stories are still, again, as simple as they might be in terms of like execution and in plot. Like I still think that a lot of people can derive a lot of things from it. Like they can feel emotion from these things. They can relate to the characters, and I don't. I'm really trying my best, and I think this isn't me saying that I shouldn't be critical by any means. I'm just saying that I really want to try my best to give the best faith to the creators, because, and also for other audience members as well, who might, feel something completely different from, this one, like, movie, show, or game that I didn't personally feel, you know what I mean? So I just like, I try not to judge other people for what they like. I'm really trying my best to, do those. Of course, like it's funny to like, poke fun at other people for being like, why do you, that's kind of a funny thing to like, but, I don't know. I'm just really trying my best to go into things with like an open mind, you know what I mean? And that really just comes down to trying new things and, trying new mediums and shows and games and whatnot. So, I think that, I'm there's a lot of of course there's again I've talked about this. There's a lot of games that I want to play for sure. But I think it would be fun to kind of like pick up some games that I'm just like not super familiar with, and test those out and see how those go. But yeah, I don't know. It's just because like again there might be something you might be surprised by what you might feel or find with these games. And again, considering like how I am nowadays, like I might be just affected by shit like I don't know, My Little Pony or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to give an example, but I'm much more easily affected by these kinds of things like that younger, I get quote unquote young. I'm still young, but like I guess me and my teenage. Like I think that maybe I would have been a lot more cynical about instead of like appreciating it for, I don't know. So whatever. It's just kind of how things progress, I guess. Like I guess the older you get, the more easily emotional you get. I don't know if that's true, or maybe I'm just more I'm just more in tune with my emotions, I guess. So I'm able to, I don't know. I'm able to feel things more easily. Like the thing, I was like playing. What was I doing? I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. Like it's like a simple,
yeah, again, like simple storylines, or like games that I've already played but I didn't feel like certain connections with. Like when I played, like last year, I was, leading up to the release of Xenoblade 3, I was replaying through 1 and 2. I didn't get all the way through 2, but playing through 1, like I definitely felt a lot more. I don't know. I felt a lot more, just, I guess, connected to the characters than I honestly did when I first played through the game for the very first time. Like when I played through the game for the very first time when I was younger, um, I of course I was enamored by the world. I kind of fell in love with it, and of course the story was fantastic. So I was really just kind of pulling along for the ride. But when I replayed it last year, or I guess when I played through definitive edition for the very first time last year, I just felt more like connected to the characters and their kind of like storylines, and Shulk's kind of, him dealing with his internal issues, and how, his kind of relationships with the other characters. Like I felt that more when, playing through it that last time than I did for the first time when I played it through the Wii. So played it on the Wii. So I don't know, maybe there's just certain things like with, media that I've already consumed, and I guess see it again now. I think I just feel a bit more. I don't know. I feel there's certain things that I connect to more now than I did before, which I think is interesting. And so I'm interested in seeing how I feel about other things that that I loved before. Um, this is a while ago. Um, this is like a few years back. A few years back, I did a review on Castle in the Sky just for the hell of it, because I went to go watch it with some college friends, and I actually did not enjoy it as much as I thought I did, or I didn't enjoy it as much as I anticipated I did, which is kind of disappointing because I loved that movie when I was a kid. I just felt there were certain things that, I don't know, certain like storylines. I thought I don't know, maybe it felt much more epic in my head when I was a kid. Just the sense of adventure and wonder, and just the magic of that, Studio Ghibli on, just kind of in full display. But when I watched it, I didn't feel as connected as I did, or as I thought I wanted it, as much as I wanted it to. But again, like, I don't know. I haven't seen it in a very long time. I kind of want to watch it again just to see how I feel, because I still do love that movie. Like when I watched it as a kid, like I felt so connected to the story, and just like just the sense of adventure. Like it just was very much resonated with me. And I when I was younger, I considered it to be one of my favorite movies. But when I watched it, I just didn't connect it in the same way. So I'm curious if I watch it now that it's been a few years. I'm curious how I'm gonna feel, because am I gonna be, because like, with my current like state of being, am I gonna feel more like, am I gonna revert back to how I felt when I was a kid, or am I gonna still feel the same as I did when I was like 20, or 21 when I watched it? You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of curious how that's gonna turn out. Um, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Like if you watch certain things, over a period of time, I guess your relationship with it, your thoughts about it, like definitely change, kind of meld over time. And I think this might be like a good example to see if like if I feel, a certain way about the movie. So I kind of want to rewatch Castle in the Sky, and again, because it's also been a while. It is a great movie for sure. It's just how I felt about it, a few years back. It was just different, and it could be different now. So, yeah, I know I've been rambling for a minute. I kind of jumped all over the place today, but I just felt, I don't know, I felt kind of the sense of energy that I sort of wanted put out there. And I wanted to continue to talk about video games, because that's sort of where my head's been. Outside of work, that's really been, my point of things that I've wanted to, I guess, consume, and things that I wanted to really, I guess, just as like a hobby. It's just a fun thing to deal with, and it's nice as a outside of work. It's good. It's good. It's what I'm trying to say. And I've recently been really enjoying engaging with discussions online, and just consuming that kind of media as well. So it's been good. And I want to talk more about games, and provide some commentary on new games and other gaming experiences and whatnot, because I think that's really something up my alley, for the time being, and how I'm currently feeling. Anyways, it's been a minute. It's been a long little section, long little rant that I've been going on. So I'm gonna leave off on that. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.